It's time for a little feedback. You guys had your discussion board about the patrol technology and policing. Uh, should have already gone through chapter 4, read that material. You will soon be going through chapter 5 to where we start talking about your uh, traffic and things like that. So, what I wanted to kind of do is kind of go over some of the things that were mentioned as ideas, thoughts, and all that stuff about both the body worn cameras, all that stuff, and also the ideas you guys have for technology. Okay, so uh, as far as the body worn camera is concerned, some things I want to touch on, just some highlights. Um, so I think that both the body worn cameras and in-dash cameras are important. I think that they do nothing but help law enforcement. And if you're doing your job correctly, it shouldn't be an issue. It should, like I said, help you, because I think you can go back, review things for reports, for cases if they go to court. That's helpful. But I think the bigger focus on it was in essence limitations or pros and cons to it. Some things I do want to point out that are obvious. I think they should be obvious. Would be that neither the dash cam or the body camera, regardless of where you wear it, is going to capture everything. So whether it be you, your supervisor, other officers, the general public, whoever, now if they want to see everything and know everything about why you did what you did, well, that's not going to happen. Just because, for one, you can't see everything. You see a particular angle, but even if it's worn on your, you have a body worn camera, doesn't matter whether you wear one that is kind of in the middle of your chest, which I've seen before, on the shoulder, on a pair of glasses, for example. I've seen all of those. And I'm sure there are other ones, but those are the ones that you see most often. Each of them has their advantage, disadvantage. However, none of them can really tell you the whole story. Stuff that the only way you're really going to do that is to somehow get in someone's head entirely, and that's not, first of all, something that I think will ever happen, and two, I don't think it would be good to try to do that. So some things I want to point out: it was mentioned during the discussion, or during the discussion board, that maybe we could put it on, like use it to find a vehicle if an officer got hurt and someone took off. Well, that's not going to help you in a short time frame. It's just, it's not going to be available. You can't review it right then. However, that does bring me to a point where I think that ultimately, I think maybe not ultimately, but I do think that we will go in this direction at some point in time. Once service requirements are met, what I mean by that is what sort of service is provided for example, live streaming in a given area. I think that if it ever gets to be, uh, to where the service is good enough, some of your larger cities, I think you may see this, but I think that what you'll end up seeing is a situation to where the camera will turn on just like it normally does whenever you're using it now, whether it be when lights are turned on or whenever you turn on your camera, whatever the policy is for your department, um, when you arrive on scene, all those kinds of things. So either way, what you'll find out is they're going to, I think eventually it'll become live streamed, so that once your camera turns on, you're going to have both audio and video feed directly to whether it be dispatch or some other area, to where if there is something that needs to be done immediately, it can be done. So whether you ask for additional assistance or not, maybe it's determined that they'll send back up your way. If you get hurt, obviously they can send medical personnel. They have an idea of description of the person and or vehicle, things like that. Now, something I do think will also be the case, I don't know how useful it will be in the big picture, but I do think it'll help, or could potentially help. We can't get in someone's head, but we can use technology to determine how their body is doing. For example, they already have vests and other items like this that you can wear that basically monitor your vitals, so like your blood pressure, heart rate, respiration rate, things like that. That yes, is it going to be a little bit more expensive for people to outfit their department with it? Yes, that's the case with everything we're going to talk about today. But I think they'll have that. They may even have technology which already exists, but not for the not at a price that is reasonable enough and also feasible in law enforcement to use, to where, for example, you wear glasses much like the cameras that we are talking about earlier, except the glasses are made so that there are essentially sensors that determine where your eyes are looking, and as your eyes move in a particular direction, that sensor also has cameras that move to fit your direction, to fit your eye movement, so that where you're looking, the camera will also be looking in that same general direction. It may not see and focus on the same thing you do, but it will still get in that general area. So that's an option. But there's some limitations to it. So I think those are all things. But the problem with it is, once again, you're going to have a hard time doing senses. Whole smell. All of them: smell, sense, sight, hearing. All those things that get factored into it. And the other part of it, it's not going to be able to indicate or really figure out is mentally where is someone at, emotionally, what's going through their mind, what do they think something is, how do they perceive something, meaning, like they think someone has a gun and it's really just a cell phone, or vice versa, things like that. So there are some limitations to body cameras, but I think you guys did a pretty good job of it overall. I'm trying to think of anything else along those lines that you mentioned with that. The other one I want to talk about, because I'm probably going to split this response into two separate videos, is when we talk about, actually I'm going to try to fit two more in here. So let's see. So what we've got. Next thing I want to talk about, though, is not the UAVs. It's going to be your automated license plate readers. So we already have these on cameras in different cities, like stoplights, etc. I think the problem you're going to run into with these, or some people already have, is expectation of privacy issues. The best way to resolve that, though, is to only, in my opinion, is to only have the more serious offenses, or like if you're going to talk about traffic, only put it into where there's a filter to where the vehicle, or excuse me, your outburst system only hits on, say, stolen vehicles, license plates of stolen vehicles, for example. And that's not always going to work either, but at least that's an option. Or even vehicles that come back to, like the registered owner is someone who has an arrest warrant for a serious offense, like a violent offender. Okay, that's another option. But I do think you have to be careful about how you go about using that type of system. Do I think it could be used like it is currently, more so for, say, traffic violations, as far as running through stoplights and things like that? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple. But yeah, you did be careful about how much privacy you intrude upon. And also, as an officer, you're expected to have some of your something that you yourself saw or witnessed, observed, that would actually justify you pulling someone over. And I don't know if I can justifiably say that, oh well, just because my in essence license plate reader said this, well, what else made you want to pull that person over? Nothing. Okay, well, you didn't actually see it. So that's kind of an issue I have with it. So moving on from there, though, I do want to go to, some people call them drones. They're unmanned aerial vehicles. Drones are more for the military, things like that, if you want to be really technical. And then your unmanned aerial vehicles are what you and I would be using in law enforcement. So this is kind of, most of you already know what it would look like, but this is kind of what we're more specifically speaking about. Okay. So we have the issue of privacy once again with this. We discussed this before the midterm break during one of our classes. It got brought up, and there have been court cases pertaining to this about whether it's justifiable to use them. And once again, it's come down to the specific, totality of circumstances. How were they used? Was it something that fit the description of, in essence, a plain view or things like that? So I think it's, before we get on that too much, I think it's okay to use for pursuits. I don't think that should ever be a problem if it's a vehicle that we've already been pursuing. And I know it was brought up by a couple different students about using the GPS darts, and those would be good, but they're usually only useful for active pursuits. So that's something else to be mindful of. And going back to drones, as far as using it to do any other work, I think it's okay to use as long as you have a search warrant. My feeling on this, and from one of the court cases I've read through, or anything else I've read, you are much better off, much safer, simply to get your search warrant and then get approval to use a UAV for surveillance purposes or something along those lines. So remember, you have to keep things like plain view in mind as far as what you can and can't do. Okay, expectation of privacy. So if you're one of those people that's out there worried about, this is going to be like Big Brother, that is probably one of your should be the least of your concerns. Not saying that no one would ever use it for that purpose, or that government never would, because it's possible. However, if you're really worried about it, then you should probably never have a smartphone or smart device, because if they really want to, they're going to find you that way much more effectively than and more discreetly than what they would with a drone. So they have that, that I can access, for instance, or I shouldn't say but I do know how it's done, how to access someone's phone, access the video and audio, in essence, speaker on their phone without it being on, without them turning it on, all that stuff. Also, there's the option of using smart devices, and this is actually what some of your criminals will use to gain some of your access, gain access to some of your other financial information, is they will use the smart, if you want to call it smart refrigerator, smart devices in your home that don't have the same level of security, like to protect you on them. They get in through there, and then they kind of like weasel their way into your more important devices, whether it be your computer, your phone, whatever. So those are all ways that you can get in there, and it has nothing to do with a UAV. So that's pretty much the gist of those topics I want to talk about. And I'll come back with another video to discuss a few more things that were brought up during that discussion board. But I will talk to you soon.